Okay, we're up to Mishlei 24:10, and this is one that is supposed to be catchy. Okay, not exactly as catchy as the early bird gets the worm, but Hisra Pisa Biom Tzara Sar Kochacha. Somewhat difficult to translate.
I don't know the first word, but I could translate the three words.
Okay, so Hisra Pisa rough from the shorts of Rafeh with a hey.
Of the heel.
That's with an aleph. That's like Rafeh, yeah.
That only
Like Metzudas says Miloshen Rifayon. So rough resh pei hey means to be soft or to be loose. So hisra pisa. Yeah, if you make yourself lax. Okay. Which we can always add to that later on. Hisra pisa biyom tzara.
The day of pain. On
a day. So tzara is an interesting thing, right? I actually wanted to see how the BDB translates it because this is not sa'ar. This is tzara. Which they're not unrelated, but they're not the same word.
Like saras?
No, that's a different word also. That's Sadi Resh Ayin. This is Sadi Resh Hey. Yeah. And Sa'ar is Sadi Ayin Resh. So, Refers would say that they're all related, but where are we here? Anyone want, how do you translate? What's the literal translation of Sarah or Tsar?
Trouble or narrow?
So I think that's narrow, right? So I think the figurative translation is what do you call it? Is trouble. Let's see what they say here. Biom Sarah, but Tsar is narrow. Dearth, destitution, vexer. Okay, that's a specific meaning. Yeah, straits, distress. Right. I mean, that's like Bein HaMitzarim, between the straits. They say that Mitzrayim is from that lashon. So on a day of like straits, right? What is the English translation of straits? I think it means like a dire situation. Straight. I don't even know if it's singular or straight. A narrow. Oh yeah, like a narrow passage, right? Okay.
What does that actually mean though? Like
a narrow passage of water to see, used in reference to a situation characterized by a specific degree of trouble or difficulty.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you could say, a day of straits. So let's say a day of trouble. Okay. A day of,
I like straits.
Yeah.
Specifically because there's a certain navigation that I think.
Okay. There's gonna be another reason to like it in the next word. Okay. Sar kochacha. So if you make yourself lax on a day of trouble, sar kochacha.
Kochacha is like koach?
Yeah.
Strength?
Yeah. Your strength will be narrowed. Yeah. Right. So it is using the term narrowing. So that's why I'm saying it's supposed to be a catchy thing, because it's trying to give, I mean, this is one of the few cases where, I mean, I coined the term Mishlei Mida Keneged Mida, but this is one of the places where he's actually like trying to draw your attention to that if you make yourself, if you respond to narrowness with narrowness, then you're going to become narrow. Something along those lines. Okay, let's see what the Targumim say. So Masusion says, Kochacha is Kamo Kochacha, so it's just alternate spelling. Okay. My guess, I haven't seen this. Someone's going to say. Anyone want to guess what someone's going to say about why it's spelled with a hey? Yeah, right. Tashash Koko Kanakeva, right? That you became weak like a woman, right? That's why I use the feminine. I feel like that phrase comes up not a lot, but like they use that in certain places. Okay, good thing this is not the Monday night here. All right. Sadigon says Im tisrape biom tzara yitzar kochacha. Okay, so I think we understand this here, but if you make yourself lax on a day of straits, your power will be narrow. I mean, it's the same thing that we said. He's just our the grammar is a little ambiguous in the original Hebrew. Okay, in tisrape bioma de aksa mistik chilach. That's the literal translation, right? So if you become lax, and Yom Da'aksa is a day of Yom Tzara, mistik, that's the same word as tsar. Your chilach is like chayil, like Ashes chayil, like strength or power, or okay, fine. Our scroll, if you were weak, so they add in another's day of affliction. Okay, that's definitely taking a stance there that is not muchach from the pasuk. Your strength will become limited. Okay, limited is also good. Actually, I like limited, day of limitation. Okay, your strength will be narrowed or limited. Living Nach says, if you are lax at a time of adversity, your strength will wane. So adversity, I understand where they're getting it from with Sar, but adversity to me implies an adversary, and that's already weaving a narrative on the, yeah. Rav Hirsch says, okay, this is a very, very expansive poetic Rav Hirsch translation. If you have shown weakness, on a day of adversity, then your real adversity was your lack of strength. So he's adding words, but the way that I think what he's he is taking the pasuk differently. He's saying not like Sadiq said, Yitzar kochacha, your strength will become narrowed. He's saying the tsar is your own lack of strength, I guess. He's adding a lot of words. But in other words, I think he's viewing it as like where's in Bamidbar? Yeah, like by the Chatzotros, I think. I don't know if he's actually saying this or if this is just my association. So tsar there, or ish haman haraz. Did they use? Oh, they just say tzorer, not tsar. Okay, fine. Yeah, so tsar is adversary or foe. Okay, so I take it back what I said about the whoever the other translation is that you can translate it as adversity. Tsar is adversity. So I guess the question is tsar a verb or a noun? So Sadion takes it all the way as a verb, and he says yitzar kochacha, your koach will become narrow. Rav Hirsch is saying your tsar, your adversary, is your kochacha that was narrowed. Okay, so I'm going to leave him out there. Alter says, should you be slack on the day of distress, your strength will be constrained. Okay, constrained is another good synonym. Constrained. Okay, slack. I'm going to say lax. Okay, slack, loose. Yeah. Okay, so variety of translations, but not super complex in terms of I think the same central ideas. Yeah.
What does it mean to be lax or weak?
Okay, what does it mean to be his rapisa? Right. Rafe in what sense? Yeah.
What type of Yom Sarah are we talking?
All right. What is the Yom Sarah in this context? And let's break that down into two questions. What is the tsara? And then why emphasize Yom, right? Like, is this only true on a Yom Tsara, or is that a qualification of like the type of tsara it has to be that has to like rise to the level of it affects your whole day? Or like could this also apply to like a regular tsara? Isaac?
What's the difference between being lax on a Yom Tsara as opposed to, criticizing being lax in general?
Right. Why
that wasn't the best way to
limit the scope of the pasuk to rifayon biyom Sarah as opposed to rifayon in general? Here, you can pass that down. Yeah, meaning is it that rifayon in general is not bad, or is it just that this is a unique kind of badness?
Yeah. Why should it be that it's going to limit or narrow your strength instead of just leaving your strength as it is?
Okay, right. So I guess first we have to ask let's break that down into the questions in order, right? So what does kochacha refer to, right? And then,
what does it mean?
what does it mean for it to be, for your koach to be narrowed, for your koach to be sar? Okay, if this indeed is a verb, and then I'm gonna I'll this is where I'll put your question, which is why narrowed as opposed to like
Undeveloped.
say again?
Stagnant.
Oh, I thought you were saying as opposed to like just gotten rid of it, like totally destroyed or whatever.
No, I would say, yeah, well, just because I don't go up to the challenge, does that mean that I'm less powerful than I should just be at the same level of power?
Okay, right. As opposed to just not further developed. Yeah, Isaac.
I might be wrong about this, but I think that's not the normal way that you'd say like your strength is weakened, right? You say like chash or something.
Yeah, right. Tash kochacha, right. Or it's funny, we say yasher kochacha, but we don't say the opposite. Like your strength got warped, right? Because yasher means it should be straightened, right? Or it should, yeah. So right. Also, why this strange? Actually, I'm going to put that a little bit before this. Why the odd term sar as opposed to weakened, which is the normal way to talk about the diminishment of power. Yeah.
Could also be rofa, like kochacha.
Right. That would be even more pleasant with the symmetry. Yeah. We'll throw in the Nekeva question. Okay. Side question, which is a minor question, I should say. Minor question, which is why spell kocha as kocha. Okay. If this is if this is meant to imply you're being a girly man, right? Then what does this add to the pasuk? Yeah.
Who's the audience?
Right.
And then what's the practical
Okay.
application?
Who is the audience, and what is the practical application? And this is one of these ones where it sounds like it could be anybody, right? Like, and not just anybody in terms of the fact that it's unqualified. It sounds, I mean, we don't really know what the Yom Tzara is, but it sounds like a tzaddik could also have Yom Tzara, and this might be a reaction. Yeah.
What would lead to someone being mitrapeh on Yom Tzara?
Okay. Yes. Right. What is the? Let's put this here. What? Actually, no, that is. What is the Mishlei Hava Amina / like cause of the mistake, right? I.e., why would someone be Hisra Pisa Biyom Sarah? Yeah, Isaac.
Is this person being lax only on the Yom Tzara, or is he being lax all the time? Should be
that's a good
not
question.
lax on the Yom Tzara.
Right. So I'm gonna tack this onto here. Similarly, is this person like he's Pisa all the time, and this is only talking about the consequence on a Yom Tzara, or is this talking about someone who is specifically he's Pisa Yom Tzara? Yeah. Fortunately, the way, like the route towards how to like explain this pasuk is pretty clear. Like we have to get like what the Yom Tzara is and what this is like a fairly easy to navigate pasuk. Yeah. You saw what I did? That was unintentional.
Something.
Yeah. I feel like we're missing one question. Oh yeah. Question is, so what? Right. Yeah. So what? Why is Sar Kochacha so bad?
I mean, presumably you don't want your strength to be narrowed on your date of distress.
Oh, that's another question. Okay. No, that's another question is, when is this consequence happening? Right.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So when does this Sar Kochacha happen? On the day of distress, on the Yom Tzara itself, or in the future? And also, similarly, like, how, is this a one-for-one consequence, or does this consequence only come about as a result of habit, right? In other words, do you have to like engage in this Hisro Pisa multiple times in order for this Tsar Kolchach phenomenon to happen? Or is it boom, right? Okay, I feel like those are all the questions. That's a lot of questions, more than I expected. Okay, Ariel had an idea first. Yeah, Ariel?
Hi, Rabbi, how's it going?
Good.
Okay, all right, so I'm not going to define anything specifically, but I think that the idea is that and I have like a parable to this. Basically, like sometimes we feel that that like if something bad happens and it's in a given day or in a season or whatever, then like that could be like okay, fine, I don't have to like work that day, I could just take it easy, or like nothing's gonna come to fruition anyway, like what's the point in working or putting myself out there?
Okay.
Like that's a day of sorrow, like that's a
Right.
troubling. So okay, back then, when like like when you're working in the field, like if it was a bad season, like okay, like what's the point?
Right.
So like people would hide in their houses or in their rooms, and they just won't toil and they won't work anyway. And the bad consequence of that is that not only will you not have like produce for the next season, but like it'll affect you in a year or 2 years from now, because you won't have proceeds to survive for like the next couple of years. And again, I'm gonna bring in real estate right now.
I knew it. Yeah.
Because like this is because like especially this past year, because the market has been crazy. The one thing that like Keller Williams has been teaching us is like charge the storm. Like right now, there are a lot of agents who are afraid, or they don't really care so much about working harder this time around, because the market isn't that good. So like I'll just wait out the storm. But no, It's the opposite. Like you should charge the storm, because this is the market where most people aren't going to be working. You want to put yourself out there, you'll get more market share, and like that will have great natural consequences, because not only will you build a reputation now, but they'll remember you for years, and the people who aren't working, they're just going to be forgotten.
Right. Okay.
So that's the idea.
Okay. So let me just try to talk out that idea. You want to add something to that idea, or you have a different idea?
Oh, actually, I had a different read that I thought was going to be along the lines of what Ariel was saying, but it's actually not. So
Okay. All right. So let me just talk out this idea a little bit, because I think this is a good approach. So Ariel's saying that the Yom Tsar, first of all, the Yom Tsar that we're talking about is a day when there is some less than ideal circumstances, right? Like let's say, like, I mean, in the agricultural analogy that he was trying to say, like, I don't know, let's say like it's like really cold or whatever, or it's really like hot, or something like that. Or let's say like you're not up to your normal your normal capabilities. So the temptation, which I want to go into and like try to understand more, is to then write off the day, right? Okay, fine. So like, I'm not going to accomplish much anyway. And then you retreat, or then you make excuses or whatever, and so if you do that, then that's going to have an impact on your koach, on your abilities, on not a Yom Tzara, right? Like even not on a Yom Tzara. And we were talking about this on Shabbos, Ariel and Sean and I, but I'll give an example that for me was a big thing for last week, which is, so I actually accidentally made up a James Clear quote. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is exactly what James Clear said. And I looked through like a bunch of the emails. I was like, he didn't say this, which was like, it's a pretty good quote though, is that how you do on your best days is a direct function of how you do on your worst days. Yeah, right. Right. So like so like last week, like I mentioned that I think all of us were affected by like the clock change, or at least with each year of my life that goes by, like it gets harder and harder for me to adjust, and I had this the added constrainment, the added tzara of like, the lack of sleep and the traveling on the 11 and a half hour flight, and then the 25 hours in Hawaii, and then coming back, and then being on the red eye and not getting any sleep then. And, and I was very proud of myself for I did have to cancel two short chavrusas and then 2 tutoring clients I had to cancel, but I kept everything else going. And I made it to all my shiurim, I made it to all my chavrusas, I made it to all the rest of my tutoring. And I had to push myself because I was tired and I was drained, and like I did it. And there were 2 levels of like satisfaction. One was that I maintained my schedule this week despite the adversity. But the second is it's an investment into the future. You used some phrase last week, David. I forgot in what context, but of like strengthening the muscle.
I got that from Rabbi Zimmer's, one of his shiurim from last year.
Yeah.
Like using, talking about your brain's muscle, like you're strengthening that
Right.
muscle as well. What?
Yeah, the planning muscle is what you were talking about, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So here it's like there is a stamina type of I mean, stamina is not the only thing. It's the stamina, it's the not giving into the excuses, you know. I also the way we were talking about also is like you know, when it comes to I know most people are not working now, but when it comes to like work, there are a lot of people I feel like who very easily would skip a shiur or come late to morning seder or whatever, but they would never do that with work, you know. And like I was saying, like you know, at the very least, learning should be related to as a job. And if you would take a sick day for their job, okay, fine. So then like you need to take a sick day if you're sick, you know. But like you wouldn't just show up, you wouldn't just not show up to work if you're like feeling tired. Like, and this is a job. Like we have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, like, you know, and so it's just like, but it's so easy to just make these excuses on days where you have any adversity. And let's examine where that comes from. I think part of it is an all or nothing mentality, right? If I can't like, you know, is making the perfect the enemy of the good, right? That if I can't like do the best thing, then I'm not going to do it at all, which is just totally irrational. Again, when it comes to making money, right? If a person said, okay, you can make $1,000 or you can make $800. No one would say, well, if I can't make 1,000, I'm not going to make any. Like that's ridiculous. You know, like you would go for as much as you can. And also, I think part of the all or nothing mentality is directly related to ego of like, I don't want to view myself as failing to live up to my standards. So if I completely exempt myself, then I'm not even trying. So I don't have to feel like a failure when I don't reach that level. You know, what do you say, Isaac? Yeah.
I think part of it, speaking from my own experience,
Yeah.
is I'd say a certain like lack of recognition of the reality of the situation, and instead like relating to it as like almost like, you know, do you have a valid excuse? And you say, and then you're not like thinking, oh, you know, does it make sense for me to be, you know, like lax about this, or you know, to take off because it's the Yom Tzara?
Yeah.
It's like, can I like, is this like an acceptable sounding excuse? Like,
Can I just flesh it out a little bit?
Yeah.
That like I feel like there is a thing that that like people will say like, oh, it's a bad day, I can't do this, you know. And there's no actual thought about the cause and effect of like, well, what is it about the day that affects this particular activity? And then what is it about engaging in the activity that would or would not suffer? And then like, is that reason enough to like abstain from doing the activity altogether? You know, like, let's say, for example, let's say you are having a bad day. And so you tell yourself, okay, it's a bad day, I'm going to cancel my chavrusa, right? But then you ask yourself, well, what would happen? What's the worst that could happen if I'm in this chavrusa? The worst that could happen is that we're not as productive. But what is the best that could happen is that we end up, I mean, this happens so often, I end up entering the chavrusa with this feeling that it's going to be not productive, and it ends up turning everything around. And like, that's the thing that rehabilitates the whole day, you know, or you end up, fine, so you're not as productive, but your chavrusa is as productive. And like, maybe this like forces him to like step up to the plate in a way that would be different. Or like, maybe like you come up with this idea that doesn't develop now, but because you invested the day here, then it affects your learning the next day. And you know, there's so many other things that if you just think it through and don't like, it's aborting the reasoning at it's a bad day, I can't do this, as opposed to following the reasoning, you know. Whereas let's say there are certain times where, and this is a real thing, like, that I think back in the time, you know, I used to take the red eye from Seattle to New York and then immediately go and start teaching. only in my late 20s did I realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be driving, in New York on this. But like, if let's say you're driving and you're like, well, what's the worst that can happen if I'm tired? Well, the worst that can happen is pretty bad. So like, maybe there you should find some other way around it. But what's the worst that can happen if I learn while I'm tired? Like, it's not as bad. So like, you're not thinking it through. You're just labeling it. Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah, I've also definitely had the experience of thinking, oh, I'm like not into it today, and then deciding to not go to shiur and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse because then I'm like even less into it and it feeling worse.
Right.
And then just like spiral.
There's definitely a self-fulfilling prophecy element to that, that can happen. Yeah, you're setting yourself up for that. Yeah, Yeshua?
Yeah, so I know in terms of driving, it's pretty clear that like when you're sleep deprived, you shouldn't be on the road because it's
Right.
danger to others. In terms of learning though, even if you follow through the reasoning, at what point is it not worth it to meet with the charusa?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you have to look at it in both frameworks of the particular learning session and then the toll that it's going to take on the rest of your learning. Like there is a thing where, let's say like in my case, it's very easy. If I have to choose, let's say I have a limited amount of energy and I have to choose between keeping a chavrusa and canceling a shiur, or keeping the shiur and canceling the chavrusa, then it's more important for me to give shiur, and so let's say like in your case, keeping a chavrusa, let's say for lack of a better term, a extracurricular chavrusa, but it impairing your ability to follow shiur, like that might not be worth it, so, you have to look at the overall picture. You have to look at, I think you have to do both frameworks, in the micro framework and in the macro framework. So at what point that you have to answer on your own, like sometimes it is still valuable to just be there and be brain dead while you are learning, because then at least you get the facts, then at least like the thought will be in your head and then you could think about it later on. Like there are many times when like I've like struggled through the learning itself, and then the next day when I get the good sleep and I'm refreshed, then the fact that I had planted those seeds the day before allows them to grow now. There's also weird, I've talked about this in the Stoic Jew podcast. This is something I tell myself, and I think it's true, but I tell myself anyway, is like, when you are tired, then you're worse at certain types of analytic thinking, but for some weird reason, your intuitive thinking is looser, and that could be advantageous. Like my mind will make connections that I wouldn't ordinarily make if like I'm, focused. So all of these factors have to be taken into account. I don't think there's a way to like formulate it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't think there's like a one size fits all answer.
No, there isn't. Yeah,
more of like an approach.
Yeah. You also have to know, like, even the thing I was saying before about how if you're not performing at your best, that's not a reason to abstain. For some people, it is a reason to abstain. Like if it's going to affect your self-image so much that like it's going to interfere with your low lishmas for like learning in the future, like maybe you should, it's very, very complicated. But the point of the puzzle is that we don't make that calculation. Like people don't even enter in the calculation. They just say, Yom Tzara, I'm done, Yeah, Isaac?
Yeah, I was gonna qualify the conversation by saying I think there are times where it does make sense to, cancel chavrusa because we're extremely tired.
Right.
I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like the conversation was a little bit too one-sided. So I just wanted to, because I've also found in my experience that there are times where it's like I'm just too exhausted and I cancel, like let's say I cancel one thing and then now I'm like, oh, it's a Yom Sorry, I've gotta just not do anything today.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I really need to take a nap now.
Right. Yeah. Can I have a meta commentary on your comment?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying this. I agree with your comment.
Yeah.
Okay. However, all right. I got a listener writing in about the Friday Q&A, right? And I don't know this person, and he said you really should have talked about how there are cases when you need to speak badly about other people, because if it's a situation of abuse or if there's like some harm going on, then like you need to like people need to be aware that they shouldn't just say we're not going to talk about it because Lashon Hara. Okay, so what I said to the guys, I said, if I were giving a shiur on Lashon Hara, which I've done, then of course I would need to mention that. That's not what this was about. This was a case of 20-something-year-olds, gossiping, juicy gossip, and someone wanted to know what to say. And he said, I said and I said, this was a Q&A also. This is, so he said, no, I think it's really important. People have to be aware about the times when you have to talk badly about people, And I said, we'll just have to agree to disagree because I don't think this is the format, for that. But what I was thinking is he's correct, but where's the Yetzer Hara going to err on the side on? It's going to err on the side of there's nothing wrong with speaking Lashon Hara, and yes, there are certain cases where a person should say something bad and their Yetzer Hara is going to make them not say it, So similar to here, I think for most people, then the problem is erring on the side of falling into this mistake, not falling into the side of being overzealous. And I'm speaking as someone who is going to be overzealous and is going to overcommit, so that's why I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but I'm just saying what was that?
I was something about whether maybe.
Yeah, right. No, but it is interesting how the voice that makes a rational point could itself sometimes, that's what your Yetzer Hara is going to sound like when you are when you're justifying taking I need to give myself a break, and even though that sometimes is true. So that's the meta commentary. Yeah. Okay. So have we so I think, have we answered this? Is this a complete thing? Hisra piece of Yom Tzara. So what was that?
What is Tzar Kochacha mean in this take?
Yeah, so I think in this take, Tzar Kochacha means that your overall ability, whatever the ability is that you're trying to cultivate through the activity. Well, Ariel was saying in terms of the results, right? Like in his real estate example, like your co-op in terms of the outcomes are going to be less. I think it makes more sense to say in terms of your ability to make the wealth or your ability to get the learning. The more excuses you make on a Yom Tzara, the more you're going to diminish your ability to develop that skill, in the future. And so you're limiting yourself in that way.
I agree with that. I agree with that too, by the way. I think that it also builds bad habits, as well.
Right.
Yeah. I just think the results, show it more.
Right. I agree with you that the results show more. I think that the pasuk, by using the word koach, is emphasizing the abilities more than the results. I think, for example, he could have said he's supposed to be Yom Tzara, then you're going to become poor, and then I would be like, okay, he's focusing on that consequence. And then maybe we could use this to take one step further, which is, if a person's thinking to themselves, my ability, okay, this is a Yom Tzara, my abilities are not at the point where I can fight through this or stay the course. If the response is you're going to be making your abilities even worse by giving into this right now, then that's like addressing the guy's reasoning. The guy's reasoning is, my abilities are not up to the task. Well, do you think you're going to make yourself more up to the task by abstaining now? The answer is no. This is precisely when you need to rise to the challenge, and and the opposite of the pasuk is also true. Is if you are not Hisra Pisu Yom Tzara, if you're misametz or whatever on the Yom Tzara, then yigdal na kochacha, whatever. I don't know what the lashon is. Yeah.
I have a different take.
Okay, I think Isaac had a different take first. Yeah.
Okay, so I am not sure if this is a valid reading.
Okay.
But it could be. So it's Hisra Pisa, if you make yourself lax.
Yeah.
Yom Tzara Kochacha. Because there's no asnachta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Intriguing.
I was gonna ask, is that like a
very interesting. Let me just see what it looks like. Not that I know the tamim for Mishlei, but pasuk 9. Hisra Pisa Yom Tzara. So okay, it's true that there's no asnachta, but there still is this guy. Yeah, right. Which and a giant white space. I feel like if there was the white space after Hisra Pisa, I'd be like, oh wow, that's a good reading. But okay, but go ahead. Yeah, because by the way, you might object to me saying that maybe it's just because of the spacing of the words that it makes it would never have a shorter phrase here. But check out pasuk Yud Beis. Kisomar. Like it has kitomar on one line, so I don't know,
What would you say from a
That's also a pause, a comma type trope. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it is, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
Talmudaically, yeah. All right, anyway, but go ahead. You have the right to ignore the. Does everyone know the matir? I want to make sure everyone knows the matir. What's the big matir for ignoring the ta'amim?
It's
No. It's one specific pasuk. In in Beraishit Gimel, which is after the Chet. Then it says, "V'yomer Hashem Elokim hin ha'adam haya ke'achad mimenu ladas tov v'ra." Okay, and Hashem Elokim said, "Behold, man has become like one of us to know good and evil." Okay, but so the break is he's become like one of us to know good and evil. But then the Targum, which is reinforced by the Rambam, translates it as, Va'amar Hashem Elokim ha'adam hava yichida'a ba'alma kama mine lemida tavu bish. Behold, man has become like one from him to know good and bad. Okay, meaning he puts the comma after ke'achad and he breaks it up when in the ta'amim it's one phrase, ke'achad mimenu, like one of us. But he says he's become like a unique one, ba'alma, in the world. And then mimenu ladas tov v'ra. So like it doesn't give you ability to totally ignore the timing, but this is like a matir, to like say that you don't have to be confined totally to the timing. Yes. Anyway, so having said that,
okay. So I think
mutalak. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the havamina is the person thinks they can be lax, like most of the time.
Yeah.
The Tzara,
they'll just muster up.
They'll perform at their best.
Right.
But if you're lax all the time, then that's going to limit your abilities.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's like my made up James Clear quote. That like you tell yourself that I'm not going to put in the effort, and then on the day when I really need to, I'll just push through and I'll do it. And it just doesn't work like that. Like that's not how muscles work. Like you need to build up the strength so that when you need it, then you can do it. And that's why someone asked me. I think I need to make an episode this week of the Stoic Jew about ask what the benefit I get is out of meditation. And there's lots, but the main thing I've been missing because I've been very lax about it lately is by doing it on the day-to-day. Like I need to be able to turn it on like a switch. And there's this fantasy that, I've had a history where I've like been able to meditate and like I can just turn it on as a switch now. But no, you need to like be building it up so that when you actually are in a state of adversity, you can just turn it on. But you can't do that otherwise. That's good, Reed. Yeah, I like that. And so I think the way it's similar to Ariel is the consequences are all the same. Yeah. Right. It's just that the reading of it is different. Yeah.
But I think there's different.
The action point is different, and the action. Yeah.
It's that Ariel's thing is the day it's Yom Tzara, and you're like, I'm going to be laxer
right
now than usual.
Yeah.
Whereas the way I'm reading it is you're always lax, and then you think that on the Yom Tzara you'll try to do more.
Right.
You won't be able to.
Correct. Yeah. Those are definitely two different forms of manifestations of laziness. Yeah, that's good. Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
I think it's substantially this thing.
Okay, yeah, Sean.
Yeah, so I want to focus on question 3.
Yeah.
The Yom Tzara. So I want to say that it's only when you're looking at the day as a day that it becomes a day of Tzara.
Yeah.
But if you take each individual thing,
yeah,
you know that each individual thing is accomplishable.
Yeah.
And so the person who's looking and they see that their day is completely packed and they're like, I don't know how I'm going to navigate this.
Yeah.
They're looking at the day within its entirety.
Yeah.
But if they say, okay, this one part, I know how to navigate that. And then they go on to the next part. Oh, I know how to navigate this.
Yeah.
So on and so forth.
Yeah.
So then the day will become something that they're able to accomplish.
Yeah.
So when the person's viewing this as the day, right, their ability to accomplish things becomes lacking because their mental fortitude going in is, I'm not going to be able to accomplish this because they're looking at it as one entity versus parts.
Okay, that's really good. So the one good way to practically implement this, I used to say this all the time in high school because I would hear a lot of students always be saying, I'm having a bad day, and I would encourage them to say, I'm having a bad morning. Ideally you would just say, I'm having a bad now, bad moment. But like, if you write off the day, there's no rational reason to write off the day. And by taking this thing that's happening right now and then using it to paint the day, you are going to limit the way that you engage the day,
So what I'm saying is a little different.
Okay.
Because it's not you're taking one moment to paint the day.
Yeah.
It's you haven't even started the day and you're looking at the day as one whole unaccomplishable task.
Right.
Versus if you break up the day into segments, you know that each segment is accomplishable.
Right.
And then if each segment is accomplishable, then the whole
Okay,
is also
correct.
accomplishable.
Yeah. So that's actually, that's also a technique that I use when it's almost going to feel like I'm not saying anything new because I'm just literally saying what you said. The technique that I use when I'm feeling overwhelmed in the day is I just go through hour by hour and I say, okay, well, is this one thing is this manageable? And the answer is yes. And then, and I realized that there is a false, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, when sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it is the whole is a figment of your imagination and the parts are really what you're actually dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was wondering from the beginning, if a Yom Tzara is a real thing or not. And I was like, it's kind of strange to say, okay, I understand, if you, I don't know, it's like a famine or something, then yeah, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
But at least for us.
Yeah.
Is the Yom Tzara real? It kind of sounds like we're saying maybe not, but I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I do think that if you're talking about a personal tzara, so see if you're talking about a tzara, the kind of tzara that you have the chatzotros over, whatever, then yeah, it could affect the entire day. But I think a day of limitations or adversity, in the narrower sense, then I think Sean's idea could apply. Because I do think if there's something that is affecting the entire day, you have to factor that into account in terms of that could affect all the particulars. But I think your thing is for when you just tell yourself it's Yom Tzara, when it's really just a particular Tzara. There's a great quote, I think it's from Lamott. Let me just see if this comes up, and if not, I'll send it later. Oh yeah, so this may or may not apply, but it's a great quote anyway. Hold on a second here. Oh, so slow. Wait till it goes. Oh, here we go. E.L. Doctorow said once that writing a novel is like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. You don't have to see where you're going, but you don't have to see your destination or everything you will pass along the way. You just have to see 2 or 3 feet ahead of you. This is right up there with the best advice on writing or life that I've heard. So again, it's not always true. Obviously, you do need to know what your destination is, but I think it is a good mashal for getting through periods of adversity of it is the in 12-step programs, the 1 day at a time or 1 hour at a time, there is a reality to that can help you to actually manage the overwhelm of the entire thing. Yeah. Okay.
It's I think this is a more, I don't fully know what it means, and I don't think that we should all live by it. But it says the British just live for a day. And that means he only made enough money for
right
today, his needs, and he knew what his needs were today.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So that's just my idea of that.
Yeah, no, I hear. Yeah, and I agree. We shouldn't live like that. But yeah, let's just really quickly look at Mitzudas David just to set us up for tomorrow. I bet that's probably where our scroll gets it from. Im hayisa mirape yadacha mechaverach. Yeah, that's where our scroll gets it. If you make your hand lax from your friend, mila azor lo biyom tzara. So from helping him on the day of his tzara, then your ability will become narrow to help yourself when the tzara comes upon you. So that's not how I thought our school was going to take it. I thought it was saying if you are lax in helping him on his day, then you will be narrow because people won't help you on your day. He's saying you won't be able to help yourself on your own day. So that we'll think about. Yeah, David? What?
Mine is a completely different thought. So
Art Scroll said it added in the word on another's day of distress. Yeah.
I was just thinking insofar as the second, Sean's question of why is it that it's tzar instead of just that it's not the same. So saying to that, something of within a forest, but I didn't know exactly what it would be. There's a certain a lot of it's it could be a situation of a lot of pressure, some sort of this is a time that extra this is for molding something or something like that. And if you don't go and this is you're pushed to a point where you're weakened and then you could come out stronger from doing something well. Yeah. But if you don't, then this push is then just going to negatively, it'll harm you in some way.
Right.
From that, all that I don't know exactly what it is, pressure or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for like what Isaac was asking about also about sometimes the pressure can apply to the wrong point or whatever. It can have a disproportionate effect based on where the thing is. Like there is a reality of the straw that breaks the camel's back. Not that you should view every straw as breaking the camel's back. Yeah. Also, I just feel like I want to read one thing just to end off with, because this came up in my, again, we're going through the time of year where COVID was this was the second full week of everything being shut down in 2020. There's this great quote that Abigail Adams said, to John Quincy. Of course, there's lots of letters to John Quincy Adams, when she talks about, if I can't find it immediately. This is, so she was writing to her teenage son, John Quincy Adams, about accompanying his father to America. And this is like her words of encouragement. So she says, because he doesn't want to go to America. Where is it here? Yeah, these are times in which a genius would wish to live. It is not in the still calm of life or the repose of a pacific station that great characters are formed. Would Cicero have shown so distinguished an order if he had not been roused, kindled, and inflamed by the tyranny of Catiline, Milo, Verus, and Mark Antony? Of course, we know who those people are. The habits of a vigorous mind are formed in contending with difficulties. All history will convince you of this, and that wisdom and penetration are the fruits of experience, not the lessons of retirement and leisure. Great necessities call out great virtues. When a mind is raised and animated by scenes that engage the heart, then those qualities which would otherwise lay dormant wake into life and form the character of the hero and the statesman. Anyway, this is more of a general thing about the point of how I think this, we have to consider this as a possibility as well, because the pasuk is only one-sided. Of utilizing the adversity to further strengthen yourself is, in other words, you could read the opposite of the pasuk in two ways. One is, if you are hisur pisa b'yom then sar kochacha, and if you're not hisur pisa, then your koch will remain. But the other way opposite is it will strengthen. So I think we just have to think about that as well in terms of how we apply this. I don't know what you said made me think about this. I realize it's not as relevant as I thought, but yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah. All right. Good pasuk. Did that not end?